Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to point out, each and every day, it expands our base. I want to talk about the implosion of the Republican Party. In order to do this, I have to explain that once upon a time, I was a Republican. I was president of the San Francisco County Teenage Republicans. I was the youngest member of the Republican State Central Committee. I worked for Richard Nixon. I worked for many Republican politicians over the years, national, state, and local. I was someone who was committed to the Republican Party. And then something happened. And the Republican Party today is not the Republican Party that I grew up in. The party of Willkie, Dewey, Eisenhower, Nixon, yes, even Goldwater, and yes, even Reagan. The Republican Party has gone off the rails, and I want to talk to you about how serious this is for American democracy. First of all, let me point out, as Donald Trump Jr. said, the Republican Party is no longer the Republican Party. It is the party of Donald Trump. The minute a political party becomes the symbol of one individual, a political party no longer functions properly. Donald Trump again blamed Biden and Harris for all of his misfortune. Donald Trump believes that it is Biden and Harris who are responsible for the troubles of the nation. And let me assure you of something. He also believes that they are the ones who will steal the election from him in 2024. I want to be clear about this. The most important single thing in American life is our reliance and our belief that the American democratic system works. The fact that Donald Trump is still blaming Harris and Biden, not only for the failures of the political system, but also saying that they were responsible for the assassination attempts leveled against him. Do you understand the pernicious nature of this? You may not like Joe Biden. You may not like Kamala Harris. But does anybody in their right mind believe that either one of these individuals would be responsible for an attempted assassination of Donald Trump? Give me a break. And then, of course, there is the question of the whole issue of the government shutdown. We are now about to have another government shutdown, and it will be a government shutdown if it happens because of the Republicans, and particularly because of Donald Trump. As Donald Trump instructed Republicans not to vote for the border security bill, which is why it failed, now Donald Trump is saying don't vote for any government help in order to avoid the shutdown if it requires you to ignore the fact that illegals are voting in American elections. Now, let me be clear. Illegals are not permitted to vote in American elections. There's already a law on the books. Not only that, I would remind you that Donald Trump said many years ago that he lost California because of illegal voters, 3 million of them here in California. We know that to be absolute rubbish. And more than that, we know that very few people who are not citizens vote in elections. There have been major studies on it. I read one yesterday. The simple fact is, it's not true. I want to point out to you that Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader in the Senate, made clear that a government shutdown would be a disaster for the Republican Party. Mitch McConnell wants the Republicans to control the Senate. And he would like, as Speaker Johnson would, for the Republicans to control the House. If government shutdown takes place, well, you know who's going to be blamed: the Republican Party and Donald J. Trump. And then there's the question of the Republican candidate for governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson. We knew that Mark Robinson was a disaster when the Republican Party in North Carolina, their primary, chose him as the nominee over a moderate. We know that Mark Robinson has said repeatedly that he's made anti-Jewish comments. He's made comments about slavery. Now he says he wished he could have owned slaves. He called himself a black Nazi. Did you hear that? A black Nazi? And now he denies that he said it. But I read the thread. I listened to what he has said in the past. And of course, the Republicans are going to lose the governorship in North Carolina. He is not going to be elected. And will it be a drag on the ticket? Well, it ought to be. It ought to be certainly a blow to Donald Trump, who needs North Carolina to win the Electoral College in order to win the presidency. Yes, North Carolina and Pennsylvania, critical states. It is important to understand that what Donald Trump is doing now, by remaining silent on the case of Mark Robinson, who I would remind you, he once called Martin Luther King Jr. on steroids, a man who has applauded Mark Robinson, who has embraced him. By refusing to denounce Mark Robinson, well, it's just another indication of Donald Trump's selfishness and moral bankruptcy, and the fact that he really shouldn't be the leader of the Republican Party. There is a clear and present danger in Donald Trump. There was another statement made yesterday that I found so appalling. Well, I am a Jew. I am a proud Jew. I am a great defender of the Jewish people and of Israel. And when last night Donald Trump, speaking to a group of Jews, said if he loses the election, it'll be because of the Jews, because the Jews didn't vote for him, I thought to myself, talk about making a statement which is completely nonsensical. I listened to a Republican member of Congress today trying to say, well, you know, it's not really what Donald Trump meant. It is what he meant. It is what he said. These are real issues, and the Republican Party will have to confront them. I believe very strongly that the Republican Party has lost its head, that the Republican Party has taken stands that are just ridiculous. And let me point out to you this latest statement on the question of a woman's right to choose and doctors refusing to treat women because they're afraid of being prosecuted legally, all because of Donald Trump and his stand on a woman's right to choose. So here's my message. It is a clear message. The Republican Party is the party that has lost its head. It has lost its bearings. It deserves to lose. It deserves to lose because of Donald Trump's statements about Biden and Harris. It deserves to lose because Donald Trump says he is not prepared to accept a verdict if he loses. It is important to point out that this is a man who, well, is calling for a government shutdown. By the way, did you know that a government shutdown costs us more money? Look, it's very clear. Donald Trump has no business near the White House. And I say this as someone who was once a Republican. Donald Trump has no business where he is, and the American people will just have to stand up and say no. I am relieved that the polls dealing with the 6 to 8 states dealing with the Electoral College are now show that Donald Trump is beginning to lose. Oh, it's a small margin. But do you understand it means that people are coming to their senses? Donald Trump is an existential danger to America and to the world. And may I say, in all frankness, as somebody who has cared about the Republican Party and would like to see the Republican Party restructure itself, well, I would rather see the party of Dwight Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Ronald Reagan than the party of Donald Trump. Wouldn't you? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along. Let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. That, of course, is our goal. And, of course, you can interact with me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And most important of all, I want to thank Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. We couldn't go around the political world with John Rothman without Gogo's excellent work. Have a great weekend. I can't wait for Monday. Can you imagine where we may be? Oh, my goodness. I'll see you then. This is John Rothman. Have a great weekend.